From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on May 30th, 2025 at South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. Last May episode, May the 31st be with you. Aww. It's gonna be June. Oh, yeah, I know. I've been waiting for that one, guys. You gotta flip the script. But on this episode of The Lede, we talk with two of the Democrats vying for the nomination to challenge Senator Lindsey Graham next year. Even though he is a Republican challenger, history tells me he's gonna be the Republican nominee. But I don't want to spoil any surprises. Now, we also hear from Senator Graham himself about his challengers and the latest on the so-called big, beautiful bill that is now in the Senate and in his court, the mega bill.
Mega.
We also, oh my God, I forgot about that. We also give you a brief State House update and a tiny, very small amount of economic data. But I'll tell you what's not going to be small. The live lead taping event in Aiken at Good Girl Brewing on June 12th at 6 p.m. with myself, reporter Emanuel Nine, producer A.T. Shire, and special guest, Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey. We will all be signing autographs.
Mega.
So put that on your calendar now, June 12th at 6 p.m., Good Girl Brewing in Aiken. We have the Evite on southcarolinapublicradio.org. It is free, but we would love for you to just register so we know who's coming. But it'll be a great time, June 12th, 6 p.m. at Good Girl Brewing in Aiken. And of course, we want you to do your part by giving us a shout on our voicemail, 803-563-7169. I'm told we have some calls. So stay tuned for the wind down where some of your compatriots are expressing interests, hot takes, thoughts, anything that's coming to mind, 803-563-7169. That is your number. That is your chance to get on this podcast, folks. All right, let's kick it off by looking at the budget, the state budget, that is. State lawmakers were briefly back at the State House this week to pass the $14.5 billion budget, which meant that the State House gavel was also briefly back in action as well. You will remember that a conference committee agreed on a budget compromise last week. You might not, you will remember. You will. Or I'm not doing my job here. And they passed that budget with 30 out of the 170 House and Senate lawmakers voting against it. So a lot of people support this. Now, gavel co-author Emanuel Nine, who will be with us June 12th at Good Girl Brewing in Aiken, you will remember that, wrote about some of the highlights in this budget, including $290 million to lower the state's top income tax rate to 6% from 6.2%. The House-passed income tax plan was not included in the next fiscal year's budget, so we will see you next year. Nearly $106 million will go to cover state and school employees' health plan premium increases, and more than $66 million to raise all full-time equivalent employees to a new pay band in the state, or about 2%. And there's also $80 million for teacher pay raises of $1,500, which also brings the starting salary to $48,500. There's also $200 million to fix bridges. That's for you, Secretary Powell. And $35 million for the Transportation Department to respond to Hurricane Helene damage. Oh, also, there you go. And there's $12 million for veteran home operating costs. So some of the highlights there from the budget. Now, the governor, well, he has line item veto power, the power of the pen, when it comes to the budget. So he can pick out specific things he doesn't jive with and strike them. Now, you can expect, I'm just predicting here, fewer vetoes because there are no earmarks, which tends to be kind of the top targets for governors, as we call pork around here. God, every time. Emanuel said McMaster declined to tell reporters what exactly he might veto. We're standing by, but the legislature is unlikely to return to address those vetoes. So again, we'll see you in January. McMaster also ceremoniously signed the tort reform/liquor liability bill into law on Wednesday before a crowd with lawmakers behind him in the lobby. The bill, most of which goes into effect January 1st, is how lawmakers hope to lessen the insurance burden on establishments that serve alcohol, and also changes the joint and severability statute, which determines ways in which juries may award personal and business damages. This was an expensive undertaking, folks. You were on that journey with us as well. But it was expensive for those special interest groups, lawyers, all the people. Everyone had a stake in this one. So that reminds me, we need to crunch some campaign disclosures and look for the briefcases full of cash, as Senator Tom Fernandez called it. Now we take you to the trail. That's right, folks. Now I'm going to raise my right hand and make this solemn pledge to you, dear leader. We will be bringing you extensive, dare I say, exhaustive coverage of the Senate, governor, and other constitutional officers' races leading up to the all-important June 2026 primary. Okay, folks, the primary's in June. That's where you, the voter, determines who will be on the November ballot. And of course, we'll be covering all those nominees leading up to the November 2026 general election. Primary in June, just as important as the general in November. Now, statewide, South Carolina is a Republican state come November. Many Democrats have tried to break through statewide, but none has been elected since Jim Rex in 2006. That is a stat you will be hearing often. Jim Rex was the last Democrat to be elected statewide, and that was to serve as state superintendent of education. Now, Senator Fritz Hollings was the last Democratic senator to be elected, and that was in 1998, the same year that South Carolina elected its last Democratic governor, Governor Jim Hodges. So there's your backstory, folks. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm just giving you some context here. 98, Mark McGuire. So tough. But regardless, and I wanted to say irregardless just to trigger some people, but I know it's not a word, but it is a word, but still, regardless, there are 4 Democrats right now running for the U.S. Senate seat. This is according to announcements that have been made and the Federal Election Commission filings. I spoke with 2 of them since they actually announced and sent an email out, which is a novel concept, a small sign that they're actually giving it a go. They are Lee Johnson, who's a retired upstate engineer, and pediatrician Dr. Annie Andrews, who you may remember from her failed 1st Congressional District race against Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Now, as you know, you will know, as you will know, Senator Lindsey Graham has already declared that he is seeking his 5th term in the Senate, 6-year terms, and it's times 5, so yeah, we're going on 30 here. Remember, he was preceded by Senator Strom Thurmond, who held that seat since 1954. Now, Hollings served with Thurmond for 36 of those years, so if you know anything, it's that South Carolina senators love their jobs. I know Senator Tim Scott says he's not going to run for re-election, but
You sure about that?
we will see about that. Now, these 2 are the biggest names in the race. We're talking about Dr. Annie Andrews and Lee Johnson. There's also at least 1 Republican running, but when you have $16 million in the bank, like Senator Graham does, and every big-name donor and Republican, including President Donald Trump, backing you, well, good luck. Good luck. Graham has also handedly defeated primary challengers over the years. I'm paging you, Nancy Mace, and he has never been dragged into a runoff, which is pretty remarkable. For example, in 2014, 6 Republicans primaried Graham, including Mace and now State Senator Richard Cash. Graham won 56% of that vote with 6 people in the race. That's far above the 50% plus 1 needed to avoid a runoff. But Mark Lynch, an upstate businessman, is using $5 million of his own money to see if Republican primary voters still love L.O.G. That's Lindsey's initials, Lindsey Olin Graham. Of course, we've digressed a lot. Now, I will say, Senate Minority Leader Brad Hutto was the Democratic nominee in 2014 against Graham. He lost. And Jamie Harrison was the Democratic nominee in 2020, raising some $100 million plus. I think it was $130 million, and he lost by 10 points. So, just give you some background. Let's talk to the people who are now vying to challenge Graham. For political newcomer Lee Johnson, he declared his candidacy on May 13th and told me this week there's a lot he wants to change, and it starts with taking Graham out.
So Lindsey Graham has just left South Carolina behind. He's not listening to us anymore. And as you probably know, he hasn't held a town hall meeting in over 8 years. And then the other big reason there's 2 other reasons. The other is that the economy is just not working for too many South Carolinians. I'm a businessman and also an engineer, and I understand how the economy works at the micro and macro levels, and I know how to fix it. And then also Social Security and Medicare are under attack, and we need someone to defend it.
So really the big issues you see it is the economy, and then also just making sure that those social safety nets remain funded and safely in place.
That's right. Another thing that I'm really focused on is unity in the country. I hear from everyone that they don't like the division. They don't like where we're going as far as the division goes. And, we've got so many internal and external threats coming down the road. I mean, it's not if, but when another pandemic will happen. And so we really need to unify as a country if we're going to fend off the threats that are coming down the road in the future.
And then how do you see, the president being a part of this campaign too? Obviously, he's really just pretty much omnipresent in so many different things. But I mean, are they hand in hand, obviously, in some respects? I mean, do you think Lindsey Graham is pretty much just carbon copy of Trump, or where do you see the president fitting into this campaign in a sense?
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is that, my fight right now is against Lindsey. But really, at the end of the day, I'm fighting the system. And, you've got this widening gap in, wealth disparity. And I think if I had one chart that I would give people to say why I'm running for office is that very thing. We're creating a caste system. We're creating economic injustices, and I want to fight those economic injustices. So, in some ways, I would call Trump more a symptom than the cause. I think the underlying cause is the system itself that has been developing for decades and decades. And it was actually Warren Buffett 20 years ago that kind of enlightened me on this issue. He said, look, as a wealthier person in this country, I'd rather pay more taxes than to have blood in the streets. And I think his whole point is that, we need to step back and make the economy work for everyone. And that's exactly what I'm running on.
And so, Lee, how do you get this out? How do you tackle this huge uphill battle when we talk about a statewide race, when we look at the numbers, when we look at the data in terms of how South Carolina is in terms of voting? We're not North Carolina. We're not Georgia. We're not purple. We're very red. How do you campaign in a state like this? What's your strategy at this point to reach people?
Yeah, so the strategy is to, just show up everywhere, to meet people where they are. So, we've only launched this campaign, a couple of weeks ago. We've already been to 10 of the 46 counties. We're going on a 46 county tour. We're going to meet, with everyone everywhere. That means, meeting with businesses, churches, church leaders, community organizers, voters in every capacity. I've been fortunate in my career to be able to retire early at the age of 52. And so I'm willing to put out my time and my money and my heart to show up everywhere for people in South Carolina, particularly those groups and folks that feel like they've been left behind, and they have been left behind. And so, when I travel across the state and I meet with these people, I get the sense that they are grateful, and they tell me they are grateful that I'm standing up, that I'm, fighting for them and representing them. And, they recharge my batteries at the end of the day, because again, this campaign is about the people. It's not me. I'm just a conduit. I'm just hearing what people are saying. And I want to get back to the days of being, that public servant. So it's not about my agenda. I have no agenda. I just want to serve. And I think service should be, sacrifice, and that's fine. But again, this country has given me so much, and it's, I've done what I've wanted to in life, and I want to give back to the country and make sure that the next generation has those opportunities that I've had.
That was Lee Johnson right there, who is running to be the Democratic nominee for that U.S. Senate race in 2026. But another big name in this race is Dr. Annie Andrews, who, like I said, got active in politics back in 2022. She is a gun violence prevention advocate and researcher and senior advisor at Everytown for Gun Safety and Moms Demand Action. She's also a pediatrician. She founded the country's only PAC for kids, Their Future PAC, and that PAC raised $250,000, which records show $7,000 of which went to candidates, while the bulk went to strategy, research, media spending, and administrative costs. Now, she told me about why she's entering this race.
As you know, I'm a doctor and a mom, and I've spent my career as a pediatrician in children's hospitals, including 15 years at the Children's Hospital here in Charleston. And I never planned to go into politics, but when you spend nearly 2 decades working at a children's hospital, you can't help but recognize all of the ways in which corrupt politics in Washington, D.C. are harming our kids and families before they ever even get to me in the hospital. As a hospital-based pediatrician, I take care of kids who've been shot, kids who don't know where their next meal is coming from, kids whose parents can't afford their prescription drugs, kids who are in the throes of a mental health crisis and can't access mental health resources. And I just started to understand that the system is failing our kids. And part of the problem, a huge part of the problem, is corrupt career politicians in Washington, D.C., who will do anything and say anything just to get reelected, even if it harms our kids. And a prime example of a politician like that is Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham will take food off of kids' plates. He will gut our nation's Medicaid program, which is the largest insurer for children here in South Carolina. He will watch prices spiral out of control, all so that he can give tax cuts to billionaires and keep his corporate donors happy. He's been in the Senate for 22 years. 22 years is half of my lifetime. And the thing about that is he's changed his position on nearly every issue over the span of those 22 years. And from where I sit, it's because he doesn't stand for anything or believe anything other than what will get him reelected, other than what will keep him in power. But I am here in South Carolina, and I believe in South Carolina. I believe in the kids and families that I've served here for decades, and I'm not afraid to call people out who are selling them out. And I'm starting with Lindsey Graham, and I won't stop when I get to the U.S. Senate.
So, Dr. Andrews, it sounds like a lot of, obviously playing on your medical background is some big issues as you see facing the state. What other issues do you see that need to be tackled outside of that? I mean, if it's taxes, if it's immigration, if it's gun laws, I mean, where do you see things in terms of priorities for South Carolina?
Yeah, I know we don't have a ton of time today because we could talk for hours about all of the problems facing South Carolina. I'm running primarily to talk about healthcare costs and corruption. As a doctor, I'm watching in real time as there is a coordinated attack that Lindsey Graham is enabling on our nation's healthcare system and public health system. They have passed the keys over to our nation's healthcare system to conspiracy theorists and grifters like RFK Jr. This is a coordinated attack to gut Medicaid, to cut Medicare, to slash NIH funding. And as a physician, I can't stay on the sidelines because it's going to take us decades to repair the damage that has already been done by this chaotic administration. And Lindsey Graham is by his side every step of the way, voted to confirm all of these cabinet secretaries. But what I understand now that I've been in politics for a bit is the root of so much of this is corruption. Because why does Lindsey Graham want to gut Medicaid? Why does he want to cut Medicare, take food from vulnerable kids? It's so that he can pass those tax cuts to keep his billionaire donors, corporate donors, special interests happy, to keep him in power. And folks are tired of that. Democrats and Republicans alike are tired of the same old career politicians in Washington, D.C., who will sell out their constituents as soon as they get into power. South Carolinians are ready for someone who will fight for them, not for themselves.
Dr. Andrews, to that note, when we're talking about fighting and we're talking about statewide and looking at the statewide race, you know what it's like to run in a congressional race. It was very difficult, obviously, in that red district. Now we're talking about a red state. How do you plan to chip away at that when folks keep saying it is ruby red? We're not Georgia. We're not North Carolina. It's a strong 10-point margin at least. How do you tackle that? What's your strategy here?
This isn't politics as usual. 2026 is not 2020. It's not 2008. Folks in South Carolina are feeling the direct negative impact of this chaotic Trump administration, the chaotic implementation of tariffs that is affecting our ports, our state's auto industry, our state's farmers, South Carolina small business owners. Folks are tired of this, and it's directly impacting so many of us. As a physician, it's never been about red or blue for me. You know, I treat every child, no matter their background, no matter what corner of the state they come from. And that's how I see politics too. You won't see my positions changing like we see Lindsey Graham's, because my positions are rooted in what I know is in the best interest of South Carolina kids and families.
And we were talking about corruption. You're talking about big money coming into these races and these positions. Are you going to be taking any PAC money? Are you swearing that off?
I will not take a dime of corporate PAC money.
And then also, we've already seen one of the other challengers, another Democrat in this race, Lee Johnson. He got an endorsement He's only been announced for a couple of weeks, but he got an endorsement from a state lawmaker, J.A. Moore. Can we expect to see some endorsements on your end? How's that working? Is that something that you're going to start working toward?
Yes, we are very excited about the endorsements that we are lining up. We'll have our first big endorsement later on today, more to come this weekend and in the weeks to follow. I've developed a lot of long-term relationships with some of our South Carolina state lawmakers over the years of my advocating in Columbia for South Carolina's children. And, we're all in this together. They see me fighting, I see them fighting. And, I'm running to help the whole state. I'm running to help down ballot candidates. I'm running because I know South Carolina deserves better. And we're building a really strong coalition of folks who are going to be by my side every step of the way.
That was Dr. Annie Andrews right there. So her and Lee Johnson are the two big Democrats there running for the nomination to challenge likely Republican nominee, but more than likely the nominee, Sarah Lindsey Graham, in June. Now, speaking of Graham, I had the opportunity to see the senator in Hartsville this week. Love the PD. Any chance to get back to God's country, I will take it. And he held a campaign meet and greet there at the Child and Family Resource Foundation, where 75 supporters were gathered in the front yard to hear him speak about the latest with the Trump administration and his own priorities. I caught up with him in the press gaggle afterwards, where I asked him about his Democratic challengers.
I feel good about my chances of being reelected because I think I've been a good senator. I'm not worried about my election today. I'm worried about ending this war in Ukraine with Russia before it spreads to the rest of Europe. I'm worried about getting this tax bill through the Senate and making the tax cuts permanent. I'm worried about keeping that border secure. There'll come a time down the road when we'll have a contest about who is most capable of representing South Carolina. I welcome the challenge. To my Democratic colleagues, I welcome the challenge you bring to the table. The closer you are to Trump, the more the Democrats don't like you. So when it comes to Democrats trying to take this seat away from me, good luck. You better get up early and you better stay late.
I also asked the senator about the so-called Big Beautiful Bill that is now in the Senate and the Budget Committee that he is chairman of and is steering. I asked, what is the bill going to look like when it hits the Senate floor? And will House Republicans, who barely had the votes to get it to the Senate, will they still support it when it comes back?
The friction point is deficit spending. I appreciate what the House did. When you have a small majority, it's very difficult. But the deficits of this bill are close to $2 trillion a year. We're going to have to trim up the deficit and deal better with the debt. A lot of good things in there for taxes. We're going to make the tax cuts permanent, which will help the average South Carolina family about $2,500. $175 billion to make sure the border stays secure. $150 billion to the military. God knows they need the help. But the friction will be on spending. The Senate's going to try to find a way to lower the deficit. $37 trillion in national debt, $2 trillion a year deficit is unsustainable. So that will be the challenge.
Now, he just said $37 trillion there, but check that to $3.7 trillion. What's the difference? Now, I asked Graham about cuts in the bill and what that means for people on Medicaid and other funding coming to the state.
This is all mandatory spending. My sister got a Pell Grant. The discretionary budget, Pell Grants, the Department of Defense, the VA, that's 24% of the budget. 75% of the budget is mandatory spending, interest on the debt. Reconciliation's about mandatory spending. We can save a lot of money and not hurt benefits for Medicaid. Obama put people on Medicaid that are able-bodied adults. Medicaid should be for poor people and disabled people, particularly children. It's expanded too much. We're going to have a work requirement for Medicaid that if you're able to work, you need to work. That will save hundreds of billions of dollars. We're also going to get people off Medicaid and get them into the private sector. There are a lot of people listening to this broadcast tonight who are raising a couple of children with 2 jobs. And you're working hard. People that can be working should be working.
As for his sanction bill that would levy a 500% tariff on Chinese goods coming to the U.S. if China continues to do business with Russia, Graham said he's ready to move forward with that bill if need be.
Senate Majority Leader, we need to start moving my sanctions bill against Russia. We're going after China. China buys cheap Russian oil, which keeps Putin's war machine going. If China stopped buying Russian oil, this war would end pretty quickly. We put tariffs on Chinese products coming into the United States because they buy cheap Russian oil to keep the war going. It's a 500% tariff. I think it will make all the difference. Europe is going down this same road. It's now time to be tough with Putin. I want to end this war. I want to end it in a way we won't start new wars. The way you end this war is you get Putin to the table, and the way you get him to the table, I think, is put more pressure on him.
Now we have ourselves a busy little capital D Democratic weekend, y'all. Yes, I will be working part of the weekend. I say that not to humble brag, but merely to brag. Just regular brag. Won't be the first, won't be the last. Again, selfless. That's what I do for the pod. But with the 2028 presidential campaign cycle percolating a mere 6 months and 3 weeks since Election Day 2024, we ask, what even is time? To that I say, it's time for Congressman Jim Clyburn's annual world-famous fish fry, the state Democratic Party's convention, and its fundraiser, the Blue Palmetto Dinner. That is what time is right here, right now. Right here, right now. I've tried, and I haven't mastered it yet, but I cannot control time. So alas, I will be bringing you the big moments from the main speakers, such as former 2024 Democratic Vice Presidential nominee and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, and others as we see what South Carolina Dems have up their sleeve ahead of the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential. Again, no one has declared, but we're like Iowa. No one just visits. Actually, just kidding. People love to visit our state. So you got your fill there. We'll have more for you on Tuesday. But I want to leave you with just a little morsel of economic data. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis said that the gross real domestic product, GDP, decreased at an annual rate of 0.2% in the first quarter of 2025. That's January, February, and March. Now, that's according to the second estimate released by the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. Now, the BEA is saying that this decrease in the first quarter primarily reflected an increase in imports, which are a subtraction in the calculation of GDP, and a decrease in government spending. These movements were partly offset by increases in investment, consumer spending, and exports. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here. We're glad that you made it this far, along with A.T. Shire, lead podcast producer.
Thank you. You will be.
You will remember him.
You will remember. Yes, you will remember.
I'm just trying to be more proactive.
You can't control time, but you can control this.
Well, actually, I kind of, that was a white lie.
This is good. Yeah. A little white lie. Yeah. Yeah. Gavin has many orbs and trinkets.
You ever see the movie Remote? Was that the movie with Adam Sandler?
That's Click.
Click.
Yeah, that's Click. It's a lot like that. Very similar to Click, starring Adam Sandler, is what noted
oh my God,
journalist Gavin Jackson would say.
Please play the voicemails.
Okay.
I need to recover.
Yep. Okay.
Help.
We got two calls. Okay. Illustrious callers, illustrious guests,
The
and
Wedding Singer and Happy Gilmore.
Those are good ones. Yeah,
those are the good ones.
You landed that plane just barely. Good job.
Right by the mountain.
Anyway. First call, great friend of the pod, and great friend we might meet in person, Gavin.
Oh, this is just what we need.
Here we go.
Click.
Hey, Gavin and AT. It's baby's mama calling in. The school year is done. We crawled to the finish. Everything is packed up until July, except for I have to go to graduation for the high school that I work at. But we're done until I think it's like mid to a little bit. We're gonna pretend it's past mid-July because it'll make me feel better from now. But too short of summer. We just have a longer schedule. Like we have longer breaks during the year in Aiken County now, so it's gonna be nice though. I'm so looking forward to sleeping in. I wanted to let y'all know that me and baby's daddy will be coming to the Aiken live taping that y'all are doing. We're looking forward to it. I'm actually kind of really excited to check out that brewery. I don't think I've been to that one yet. We've booked the babysitters, and we are looking forward to seeing y'all live and in person. Giving all of our best to Rita, and school's out. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, baby's mama, congrats. Mama crawled to the finish line. Can relate.
Yep.
Graduation, the places you'll go.
I'm not sure we ever reached the finish line. We talk about it a lot, but for the campaign trail, it's very Sisyphus.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Baby's mama, I'm glad that you can get a little
Yes,
break.
definitely.
We're very
I
happy
cannot
for you.
wait to meet you and baby's daddy. It'll be so exciting.
I'm spitballing a name for the episode. Right now, all I have is Aching Breaking Heart. If anyone has anything better, any better puns, please call in and let us know. You can text the line, or you can tell us in person at the show. Little baby Rena receives the well wishes, and just an update. She's a walking baby Rena now.
Oh,
that's right. This baby walks.
God, I cannot wait till she is old enough. Will podcasts still be a thing if she's like when she's?
It'll be
10?
It'll be sort of video
here?
podcasts that go straight to your Neuralink or whatever implant we've got at that point. Something like that.
The slop is going to be so good.
Yeah, well, that's going to be intravenous.
God,
yeah,
I kind of begrudge people that like, they got to watch their shows and stuff. I don't really watch shows.
Sad.
Because I'm just too busy. Scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
It's so hard to put down. And I have books I want to read, but I'm just like, I can't stop.
The slop tap is open at all times. And Gavin,
give us some more slop, please.
I gotta say, this leads well into our second call. Okay, this is
that's because my Neuralink was telling me.
Yeah. I was getting pinged. Okay, Gavin.
I gotta ping you guys. Just circle back and ping me when you have a chance.
Just ping me when you got something good. Okay, folks. Okay, here's our second call.
Oh, it's a real laugh.
Gavin and AT. This is Cam, the state newspaper subscriber, and BB2. Henry McMaster just signed the tort reform and liquor liability law. I am not a huge fan of it. As a bar and restaurant owner in the state, I think that the incentives that they are giving are primarily to insurance companies. It is going to allow us to lower our minimum required insurance policy, but there is no regulation on what the insurance companies can charge us. So they may essentially say, hey, thanks for lessening our risk. Your rates will stay the same. I'm not sure if I've ever heard of a situation where insurance companies have voluntarily lowered their prices. So not super pumped on that. On the slop topic, the slopic, if you will, let's not forget about the KFC famous bowls. I think they may have predated the burrito bowlification that Moe's and Chipotle brought in. But the KFC bowls, popularized by Patton Oswalt with his statement calling them a failure pile and a sadness bowl, or a sadness pile and a failure bowl. Can't remember. Also talking about slop on the feed, the doom scroll, a lot of Instagram, foodie influencers seem to be just posting the sloppiest things they can get their hands on. It's not about whether the food is good so much as like the cheese pull or the juiciness. So all of these people are, just going head first into these sandwiches that disintegrate the second you take a bite out of them. I'm not here for it. I want some structural integrity out of my sandwich, my meal. If I need to pick it up, I don't want to feel like I'm going to have to wipe the entire thing off of my face, especially as a facial haired person. That's all I got. Thank you guys for the great work that you do. You are my number one source for South Carolina news. I love you.
Cam, I love that. I was just telling AT when he was playing the call that I'm torn between disgust and...
He's so into it.
I want that.
Yeah,
now.
he wants to eat it.
But I agree with you. Like, I don't... Maybe I'm not targeted. Maybe the algorithm.
You got to get dialed.
Maybe my algo's not dialed into like mukbang.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you don't know that phrase, it's when people just like...
eat make copious amounts of food.
ASMR disgusting.
Yeah.
I saw this girl, maybe I am, ordered 80 oysters.
Ugh.
And she ate all of them, allegedly.
Yeah, that's gross.
That's and I love oysters, but come on. It's like chips. You get burnt out after like a bag or two, right? We all drive and eat a whole bag of chips, right?
I mean, I've not
I know.
I've not eaten a bag of chips and opened a second.
Oh, my God. But I would if I could. I'll tell you that right now. If I had all the chips.
Well, Cam, thank you for calling.
And hopefully competition will lower the rates. I know that's what the market's supposed to do, but think about it. If we get some new guys in here, it's just, it's basically AT&T and Spectrum, right?
Yeah. Who knows?
It's the same
knows?
price, the same $50 a month plan that goes up to $65.
Full disclosure, Cam and I did hang out and go see a movie this week.
What?
And I didn't ask him to call in. He did this on his own volition.
What?
And one thing, he did mention these KFC bowls, not when we were hanging out, but in this call.
I want.
And I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to bring up the double down, okay? Let's not forget about the double down.
I meant
2 pieces of fried chicken instead of bread.
Oh, God. Now I'm really hungry.
That's the opposite of a slop bowl, but the same vein of food.
Well, it's like the donut burger.
Maximum disgusting. It's a Franken food, yeah, which I hate a Franken food.
I know you do.
My friend Kellen, Caitlin's business partner in Craft and Draft, he's such a big Franken food. I'm calling you out, Kellen. He listens and he says he's going to call all the time and he never calls. So
everyone does.
Hopefully,
it's okay.
hopefully this call out lights a fire under your butt a little bit.
And if you want to support Cam, I'm going to give you some free advertising because he's such a sweet boy to call.
Yes.
Go to Transmission.
It's great.
Great.
Such good wings.
Arcade bar. The food's fantastic. Great service.
When
great
it's
people.
cheesesteak
Just
night,
right.
Cheesesteak night. Cheesesteak night.
Hey, can I get that in a bowl, please?
No. People, no.
I'm going to go and do a big cheese pull. Disgusting.
I got to say, though.
It's like licking your fingers
as close
public.
to bowl as I get. I hate
Here we go.
I hate licking
Get me
my
there.
fingers in public.
That's disgusting.
I hate it.
Sorry, everyone.
As close to a bowl as I get.
Sorry, go ahead.
Transmission has bun me fries.
Oh, they're so good.
They are amazing.
Okay.
They are amazing. And I don't like deconstructed things, but this on that is really good.
We got them, folks.
It's really good.
Got them, folks.
And the sloppiest I get is when I do order a cheesesteak from Transmission. There's like a form online that says like any comments for it. And I do write slop it up on there.
Yeah, that's like a sub. I want it swimming in oil.
Yeah, I want the bread wet.
Let it get soggy. I don't care.
But I want to be able to see the. We did say it was disgusting, and now we're talking about how much we like.
No, you are.
So you said let it get sloppy.
Well,
and we're supposed to be an infrastructure pod.
I was torn.
This is supposed to be an infrastructure.
I know we're supposed to support structure.
So the structure integrity is it has to hold. It has to have a base to hold the sloppiness of a good sandwich.
Sure, I'm not for that content, but I can eat a sloppy sandwich.
The content is disgusting. The content is an extension of what I've talked about for years on this show.
Lack of creativity.
Sort of in the way that when someone just to make something everyone can relate to and everyone likes to look at, they make it uber cheesy and bacony because these are crutch flavors. This isn't like high-end cooking. They just want it to be the cheesiest, wettest thing ever.
I like cheese, but I'm not dying.
I always say that I like cheese more than anyone as someone who the cheese hurts them and I still choose to eat it.
That's you.
That's me,
That's you.
The biggest cheese liker here. Thank you very much. I'm glad you agree.
If you got through this wind down without eating something, or you did eat something,
gagging.
I want you to call. I need to know what we triggered you to eat. And that wasn't my intention, but I'm starving right now. And I will tell you what I went go eat after this. I might go to Transmission after this. I'm like,
oh yeah, baby. Get the wings,
I want
baby.
the banh mi. I want the banh mi.
Banh mi fries and Abacus Gold wings. They are the best. Anyway,
I want a Chipotle bowl.
No, that's wrong. That's bad boy. I'm gonna spray.
No.
Where's my spray bottle? Okay, do the outro, Gavin.
Okay, y'all. But let us know what you're eating right now. 803-563-7169. Be like Cam and Baby's Mama, who we cannot wait to see in Aiken, June 12th. Good Girl Brewing, 6 p.m. RSVP at southcarolinapublicradio.org to let us know you're going, and we will see you there. And, of course, you can always show us your appreciation by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love that, too. And you can stay up to date with the latest news on scetv.org and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers like Cam. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. That was a Tokyo shrift.
Whoa.
Fast pitch, baby.
Wow.
Underhand fast pitch.
Wow. That's going at the end.
And you're a lawyer?